Hey, all my kitties. It is Kitty Sorrow, and I am going to do another unboxing for you. This time, unboxing comic books that I am reading currently. So, and I am wearing this mask so that I do not get any diseases from you. Just kidding. I'm already infected. So, let's talk about the different comics that I am reading currently. I got my box today from the discount comic book shop service people. And so I thought we would go through some of these and see what I'm reading or what's new for me and give a couple of comments about them. As Scott likes to say, I'll read just about anything. So let's start with this one. So the first one I have here is issue number 6 of Invincible Iron Man. And the character is actually Ironheart. It's a young lady who is currently wearing the armor. And I'm not quite sure how much Marvel actually does care about diversity or promoting diversity, but and this is just my opinion, but if you really want to do diversity, just have a comic called Ironheart and let that character be the main person and don't try to sell her as Iron Man. And just push the crap out of that character, because actually she's pretty fun. She's being well written so far by Brian Michael Penis, who's not actually one of my favorite writers, but he's doing a good job with this so far. You don't have to take your old characters that people have loved for decades and then just suddenly say, oh, this is Iron Man, but no, it's not. It's like, there can be a Tony Stark comic and an Ironheart comic too. And if you really cared enough for those characters, you'd create them and promote them, not promoting them like this. So everybody read that when it becomes Ironheart. Or to read the trade when it comes out, because that's always the good thing too, right? The way these stories are written and they come out in trades and all that fun stuff. So here's one of my favorite comics right now. And it has been for a while. If you're not reading ScoobyDoo Team Up, then what are you reading? Let's be honest, okay? This has been it's on issue 25 now, and I've gotten every issue. It is my favorite all ages comic right now. Or has been actually for a while. This issue features Green Arrow and Green Lantern. So if you remember them teaming up together and how iconic that run was, this is probably, going to be just as iconic. Because now Scooby-Doo is on crack. No, I don't know what the story is going to be. Scooby Snacks is what he's addicted to. But the series has actually picked a lot of crazy but fun guest stars. I mean, it's like watching the old Batman cartoon or Scooby-Doo when they would have, characters come in, like Phyllis Diller would be a special guest, Batman would be a special guest. That's what this series is, Scooby-Doo Team Up. Sometimes the jokes fall flat, sometimes the jokes are really funny, sometimes they're very layered. They make fun of themselves, they make fun of the characters, they make fun of the history of the characters, so I have no doubt there's going to be something in here about, drugs or racism or something, I don't know, with some green people or something, but if you want a good all-ages comic, this is it. It's definitely Scooby-Doo Team Up. So those are 2 good comics you could be reading right now. Here's another good comic. I think we talked about this last time. Justice League of America. Here we have Lobo kicking somebody. Pow! Pew! Kicking him in the face. This is actually a pretty exciting looking cover. Pretty good cover there. It doesn't say Justice League to me. It says Lobo, but Heart of the Bastille is issue number 5. The first 4 issues of this were pretty good. I like that Batman has this team getting together that he says is so that the street level person can have street level heroes to root for. What that means when Lobo's on your team, I don't know. And then that your first story is going to invade some other country and some other, again, it's sort of like, I don't get the idea of how this is supposed to be street level Gotham people, but there you go. We'll see what Orlando pulls out. I'm willing to give this at least 2 more issues, I just think it makes me think that maybe, like my dream would be to write an Avengers title someday. and so of course I would populate it with just whoever I wanted for the Avengers. And I wonder if like this is what like he always wanted to do a Justice League title, and so it's peppered with all the people that he wants to be on the team, but he forgot to write the story part of it. So even though it's like his favorite people, there's no reason for these people to be together. So, but that happens. That happens sometimes, right? I've got the third issue of Darth Maul, and I have to say, I'm not like a huge Star Wars fan for the movies or anything like that, but ever since Marvel got the Star Wars franchise back in comics, they have done such an excellent job. Kudos to them. The Star Wars series, the Darth Vader series was wonderful. They stopped it, but they're going to start it again, which just makes sense because it was probably, to me, the number one best of all the new Star Wars ones was the Darth Vader one. All the miniseries have been great, and the Darth Maul one is just, there's such a rich universe there, and what they seem to be doing, because they got so much money, is just letting writers come in, take any character they like, and say, okay, well, write, what do you think it's going to be about? What do you think Darth Maul is all about? Because let's be honest, he's not that big of a presence in the movies. You know, I would love to write a Hammerhead comic. Call me. So it's just fun. I mean, I think ever since they got the Star Wars franchise, they've really cared about the characters and making sure that it's always good comics. And maybe it's just money talking, but money talks. So there we go. I have the 5th issue of this terrible, terrible, terrible Hulk series. It's She-Hulk. It's Jennifer Walters, and it's just this real boring character study of Jennifer not wanting to lose control because of everything that went down in Civil War II. Personally, I don't want to lose control because that they even bothered to do a Civil War II, but no one asked me. The art's terrible, the story's terrible. So of course I'll stick with it for at least 6 issues. But I love She-Hulk, so that's what the thing really is. It's like you start, and because most storylines nowadays are written for like 6 issues, it doesn't feel fair to me to like just drop out after 2 issues. So I was like, well, what if the story is going somewhere? I understand what I just said. Of course, the best comic going nowadays, I can't say enough good things about Astro City. If you're not reading Astro City, you should be reading Astro City. You should be getting all the trades if you haven't ever read Astro City. It's just the best series ever. It's its own universe. Most of the issues are vaguely about the heroes. They're usually about the common man observing the heroes and becoming heroes themselves often, or villains, or some sort of comic book action, and how it affects regular real-life people. But it's been going on for such a long time now that it seriously is its own universe unto itself. And every issue is just amazing in writing, in art, and emotion. Some of the most emotional writing out there nowadays, as far as really, really making you feel. I mean, he did Busiek did a little arc recently about a trans hero that really touched me. There was another one about aliens who were on our planet considered the villains, but on their planet they thought of themselves as the heroes. And just the duality of how people were seeing themselves. He did such a great job of getting that across. And that concept across of, are you the hero or the villain in the story? I guess we're all the heroes in our own story. So I can't say enough good things about this. If you're not reading Astro City, you should be. This should actually be like the #1 comic sold all the time. It's the best. So sometimes I read previews, and I'll buy something that I don't really know anything about just based on what I saw in previews. So I don't know anything about this comic except for it's on the Albatross label. Albatross! It's called Nam Wolf, and I'm assuming it's sort of like a werewolf in Vietnam story. I love this cover. It's gorgeous, gorgeous art. I haven't read it yet, so I have no idea if it's any good. but it was enough to pique my curiosity, and it's giving me sort of like a Gorillas vibe, you know, the Gorillas series where it's like gorillas in Vietnam fighting. So that's part of why I got it, but also Albatross is that Eric Powell stuff, and I love his art. See, I've got Spook House as well, which is for Albatross. I love his art. You know, he does the goon. I don't always like everything that he says or what the stories are necessarily. You know, there's a lot of like, and I'm not saying that he's jumping on the bandwagon, but there's a lot of redneck comics coming out nowadays, like countrified redneck kind of things. Which I guess with the direction of the country, you have to you have to expect that. So I think, you know, he's definitely the goon, and all his kind of bench and stuff were around before that. But I do like when he goes into more of the spooky creature-y kind of stuff, you know, like when he was doing the Monsters Are Loose and all that kind of good stuff for Marvel. I mean, his art is just to die for. He's an absolute great artist. Maybe not the best writer, but can't say enough good things about his art. Always loved it. Always loved it. I used to collect Goon, but I just kind of let it go because I've been getting Spook House, so that's the same difference. Yeah. I have the 6th and probably last issue for me of Doom Patrol. I haven't really cared about this reboot or the Young Animals reboots. Maybe I'm just too old. This is for the kids. It's not for you. I don't get it. And I think that it's sort of just that way to be that way because it's expected to be that way. It's not really a recreation or a reinvention of these characters. It's just sort of, I don't know, trying to continue the vibe it used to have, but for today. I don't really feel like it's that updated. I don't really feel like it's that original. It's very trendy to me. It just comes across trying too hard. But, you know, that's Gerard way anyways, trying too hard as it is. So, as you can see, I'll buy anything, basically, when it comes to comic books. Even things I don't even like, I'll still read it. That's how the sickness is. So, for example, why am I buying Optimus Prime? I don't know. So this is the 6th issue of Optimus Prime. And yes, I bought all the other 5. And I think this is actually like reprints from like maybe Japanese or Italian comics or something. I mean, the art is awesome. If you like Transformers, it's awesome. I actually, when Transformers comics first started in IDW, you know, a million years ago, way before the movies or anything like that, I was collecting them. And the art just blew me away. And I didn't know anything about Transformers. I never watched the cartoon or anything like that. But they did such a good job of making sure that each of the characters had emotion and emotional states. And it's almost like watching the Seven Dwarves in a way. Like the sleepy guy is going to be sleepy. The happy guy is going to be happy. So they made sure that each one of their characters, if they had a sort of certain theme to them, you always knew what that theme was. And they were always kind of reacting and acting against what that theme is. So that's part of probably why I'm getting that, because I think it's going to be that good again, but so far it hasn't been. So, I've got, again, the new Batwoman, because I love the character so much. I don't know that this is the best iteration of her. It's never going to be as good as, you know, J.H. Williams was doing with the art. I mean, that was so... To me, that was like such a seismic, you know, rumble of goodness for GLBT characters and story and art. It all fused together. It really made me love Batwoman. But then right after that, and I'm forgetting who was the in-between writer, but did not get the character at all. And so far with this one, I don't feel like they've quite captured her. They're closer than before, and if you read these comics, you'll see that they're kind of trying to do some of the art notes that Williams did as far as the way panels are constructed and everything. So I think they kind of knew that they fucked up. But I just love the character. And, you know, I would love to see a Batwoman a series. Like, this would make a good CW or something, you know, or Fox. If you get on this, it would be great. I don't know who would you want to play Batwoman? I don't know. Cicely Tyson. The next one I've got here is The Power of the Dark Crystal. I love everything Dark Crystal. I love the movie. I love the books. I love the pre-books, the after books. This is an after the movie story. So Kira and Jin and everybody, Skeksis, this is after the movie. So once they've all come back together, this is what this series is kind of picking up on. And this company, I don't know how to pronounce that. Somebody correct me. Archaea? Someone named their baby that. But they've had the Dark Crystal franchise for a while, and I just love everything that they've done with it. They do amazing art. They always find amazing artists. They've added characters that I've loved to the mythology. They just do an excellent job, and this is a 12-issue maxi series, but I have no doubt that once it comes out in a trade, I'd probably get that too, because it's just gorgeous to look at, and I'm all enraptured with that universe. So what can you do when you'll buy anything? Such as Anno Dracula. See who gets that reference. It's from Titan Comics, which I've been getting a lot of things from Titan Comics. So, again, I saw this in previews and I said, I'll give it a chance. This is the second issue, actually. And it's basically, I guess it's taken from a series of books, I think, that I haven't read them or anything like that. This is the comic book versions of it. 1895, 7 Days in Mayhem. And sort of, the idea behind it is sort of if Dracula existed during the World Wars and married the Queen and just, did how many different, joined the Beatles and shot Coppola's Dracula too. Just all these different kind of take the character and put it in some kind of slightly, realistic world, but then do whatever you want with it. And it's got this great Mandrake cover. I love Tom Mandrake's art. It doesn't work for everything, but it definitely works for some of the darker stuff. And I read the first issue, and I like the setup of it. It was giving me some Penny Dreadful, feels. And I've been reading the Penny Dreadful comic book as well, so there's that. And I like Dracula, so there's that. And I like comic books, so there's that. And I like you, so there's that.